Good morning and welcome. My name is Kylie Bartlett, CEO of Digital Talent Group and host of DigiStyle, where we discuss digital a little bit differently. Today we have two super amazing guests to be interviewing. First up, we've got Lucio Ribeiro, who is a lecturer, consultant of his own business, and he's also about to launch a new startup in the TikTok space. Can't wait to explore that. And then we've got Meg Pinney, who is the director of Gateways.
On Ticker, this is DigiStyle with Kylie Bartlett.
And go.
So Lucio, how did I say that?
You say Lucio or Lucio?
Lucio Ribeiro, who is a lecturer and founder of Lucio.AI, who is going to be talking with us about where he's come from in the digital online marketing space. He's been voted by the public as top 100 online marketers, most influential online marketers in the world. I can't wait to explore this topic. Lucio, welcome so much to DigiStyle.
Oh, thanks for having me. A big pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, great opening with Jumpstart this morning where they were talking about TikTok. So I'm really looking forward to exploring that with you. But before we get into that, give us a little bit of your background. You've done so much, lecturer, consultant, started 3 companies, just started your 4th. Love to hear how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, well, when people ask me my background, I don't even know what you start, but I'm Brazilian, so let's start there. So I've been in Australia for about 15, a little bit more north of 15 years. As I said, I founded 3 different companies. The most successful was a digital marketing agency, which I sold in 2019 in a good deal. I'm a lecturer at RMIT. I lecture digital marketing. It's one of my courses. The other one is artificial intelligence applied in strategy and marketing. And I also lecture at Deakin University in marketing insights. And I just started, and I'm a public speaker in the topics of resilience, ancient philosophy applied to modern business, and artificial intelligence. And I founded my 3rd startup. It's called Lucio.AI, which is a high-end consultancy to CMOs in the topic of digital transformation, artificial intelligence, and innovation in channels, not just advertising. And I'm starting the 4th at the same time called Chick My Day, which is a full-time dedicated agency to consult in the space of TikTok.
And it's the first, I believe, the very first TikTok agency in Australia that is going to be specializing in advertising and marketing on TikTok.
Well, arguably is the first one. Google couldn't find anything.
So you can take that title. If Google doesn't have it, then you can have that title.
Exactly. So I'm taking the title. We haven't checked the world yet, but we are proudly calling the first dedicated full-time agency on TikTok in Australia.
Well, after hearing your background and everything that you do, I need a good lie down after that. Like, do you actually manage to have a life? There's a lot going on there.
It's a lot going on there. It's it's a pretty full-on life. There's a lot of stuff happening. As you know, like people who know me personally know how much energy I have.
Yeah.
It's borderline annoying to some people.
I can feel the energy. So for you, it's a lot of it's pleasure. It's not hard work. If you're doing, I guess, what was the saying? If you find your purpose, you'll never work another day again.
Yeah, well, there's some ikigai going on in my life. There, I found really what I love doing, maybe arguably what the world needs, and it some days feels like work days, tiring.
Like marking assignments.
Oh, marking assignments! Don't get me there. But it's part of the job. So I've got a pretty full-on life, but I also have some personal things I take, like meditating twice a day.
Which is where the resilience comes in, study Buddhism. So you've got a lot of groundedness, I'm guessing, through all this wild world in digital. You've also got this nice groundedness, and that you are a keynote speaker in the topic of resilience.
I am, yeah. I'm a student of Buddhism, a student of ancient philosophy. Stoicism is my preferred one. I practice every day. I follow everything, so that actually calms down a little bit. So it helps immensely.
Fantastic. So I'd like to unpack and explore with you, given your breadth and depth of experience in online marketing, digital marketing, social media marketing, and now in particular with AI becoming more and more popular, what are some of the problems that you're seeing people making jumping into this digital space?
Well, I think that's such a great question, Carly, because everybody always asks me, what's new and what should I be doing things new. And throughout the coronavirus, I got lots of friends calling me. They own agencies, they own consultancies, and they would call me and say, hey, we need to prospect, I need to grow, I need to do it. And the first position for them would be, have you actually shielded your clients? Have you actually looked after the baseline of your staff in your family? Have you actually had conversations with your husband or your wife, asking them what they need from you? So just look after the basics first, and then you move on to the really cool and nice. And of course, you got to experimenting a little bit, as long as there's no big risk. So I think the biggest mistake, it's not different than what Mark Ritson says, it's jump into tactics really without thinking behind what you're doing there.
Without the strategy, I guess it's like I say, garbage in, garbage out. Your outcome's only as good as the strategy, right? So what you're saying there is that a lot of people are jumping in but don't actually have the foundations in place or the strategy to know what the end in mind looks like.
Yeah, without even at least an objective. And like having 100,000 likes on Facebook, it's not necessarily the objective itself. It might be. If you think about the world, the way you progress in the world in terms of certifications, for example, like quite honestly, one of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest reason we go to universities, MIT, Stanford, or MIT or anything, is certification itself.
Yes.
We democratize learnings, we democratize content, right? It's actually easy to get it. So you go pay, you get the certification. It's not the only reason it's there. So to some degree, likes on Facebook or likes on Instagram, followers, all the stuff, it works as a certification of popularity or whatever. So it does build impression. Sometimes I want to do an Instagram because I want to increase to 1,000 followers. Why not?
Yes.
If you know what you're doing, that's absolutely fine. It's part of the thing. It's not the biggest thing. It's not necessarily going to translate in sales. But regardless of that, this cannot become the goal itself without some sort of thinking behind, you know? So the biggest mistake I see is the tactify or building up tactics without having at least a goal, and even better, a strategy behind. And what happens when you're doing this, it's where you hear things like, oh, well, LinkedIn doesn't work for me, Facebook doesn't work for me, Google doesn't work for me. Yeah.
What's your strategy looking like?
Exactly. So I think the biggest mistake is not taking some sort of time and sit down and say, okay, Kylie, why are we doing this? And then build it up on there, right?
So a couple of questions that I want to ask you on this is so intriguing, is what do you think the shelf life is of a website with all these influencers that are building a really strong following on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook? My insight or my take on that is Zuckerberg owns those followers, you don't. So where do you see websites sitting in where we're building, I look at websites a bit like going to a bar and we buy someone a drink and then we invite them home for a nightcap, and that, I know my brand, I can't help it is a bit provocative, but they come home and then the website's outdated or the bed's not made, there's dishes in the sink, so people go back to the bar to buy another drink. But where do you see, I call it our home, like the mothership of bringing people home, where does websites sit now that we can actually build not just profile, but we can now sell on social? What is the role of websites now?
It's a very important and relevant question. Of course it is. It depends a bunch of stuff. I think that the way I like to think is strategy. When I sit with a client for the first time and they talk about what they want to use their channels, whether it's social or search or owned, it doesn't really matter. I like to think about two different things. I like to think the first thing is very simple and works. I like to think about the 4 Ps, and it's still relevant, right? Sometimes we're thinking way too much in social and website on one of the Ps, the promotional piece. And we forget about the other Ps, all right? We forget about product, we forget about distribution, we forget about pricing, right? And your website can actually work around one of those other Ps. That's the first thing. So what we're doing is a promotion activity, or is like, what is the relevance of a direct-to-consumer website? Huge.
Yes.
Huge. What is the role of a promotional website? Probably lesser, but not to say it's not worth it. That's a whole lot of difference here, right? I built with Cadbury the first e-commerce that Cadbury had around the world, the very first one. Wow. So what is the role of that? And it was a gifting. We got a specific reason to have there to sell based in occasions, right? Which is a powerful tool to sell. So the role of the website is the role of the soul in your body. You need to have that.
Yes.
Otherwise,
so it is
irrelevant.
the mothership. It's still got a heartbeat and still plays a role.
It does play the role. So the first thing, so I'll simplify this. The first thing I like to talk to clients and any business watching us right now, I would say, okay, build it up the 4 P's. Which P, it's kind of, what is the balance? Just associate some balance, 20%, 30%, 50%. And normally is promotion, that's fine. And then you move to a second question, which I think is extremely relevant. We forget about it. Is, am I creating demand or am I fulfilling demand? All right? Someone jumping on Google, you're already looking for either my brand, my competitor brands, or my category, and I'm fulfilling that demand.
Yes.
Then your website has a huge role. If I'm creating demand, maybe social has a bigger role for you.
Okay, that's a great way of looking at it. And another, just a quick question. I'm really fascinated around, you said, you know, get your ducks in a row, have the foundation, have the strategy in place. But corporates sometimes are having a meeting about a status update, and the opportunity's gone. So you look at TikTok. I think the reason why some of these influencers have taken off is they actually didn't start with a strategy. They were very authentic, they were being themselves, and they've blown up and now have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers on TikTok. So where do you see TikTok going and needing to have a strategy before you jump into it?
Well, I think it's a mindset. Either you fight for survive or you fight for growth.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one of the two things. So I also ask these questions to clients sometimes. I say, look, what is the purpose of this thing here?
Yeah.
Are we doing this for survival or are we doing this for growth? That's the beginning.
Fantastic.
Okay. The second thing I really like to phrase is when the risk is low and perhaps the reward is quite big.
Yes.
Well, we're not saving whales when we're doing a TikTok campaign.
That's
we're not
so true.
changing the world,
Yes.
all right? If you're investing $1 million on there and that represents 50% of your budget, yeah, we got to do a lot of thinking behind, right?
Yeah.
But if you're talking about a residual, small bit piece of your investment and time, and your risk is really low, we don't need to stop.
Just jump in and
Just
have
jump
fun.
and do
And,
it. And it doesn't mean you cannot think or say, okay, great, for this thing here specifically, we are doing because of A, B, and C. So I was the first with my client BMW Mini. We launched on TikTok.
Yes.
And we were the
Great
first
ad too.
automotive to launch on TikTok, right? Arguably, at least in Australia and New Zealand, but arguably in this region. And the reason we do it was very simple. What we call ESOV, access share of voice. You know, we had all the competitors pulling down their advertising in every single channel. All right, and share of voice is a mix between share of market and share of voice. There's a direct correlation on there. As more share of voice you have, you increase share of market in a few years. All right,
love it.
It was very simple. TikTok had an audience that we were not reaching across the other social media channels and the digital, and we had access share of voice. That's it. We decided this in 10 minutes.
Oh, I could interview you all day, but our time is up, I'm afraid. But one last little plug, where can we find out more about you and what you do?
Okay, the most interesting thing I'll be doing now is the TikTok thing. So
TickMyDay.com.
That's
Okay,
it.
fantastic. And look you up on LinkedIn.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, Lucio. Really appreciate it. Okay, up next we have Meg Pinney, Director of Gateways, who is specialising in training and education for gifted and talented kids. And we're going to learn all about how they've pivoted online since COVID to start delivering programs remotely. Welcome to the show, Meg.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to start with, before we go into what you're doing now, a little bit about your background. I know I've known of Gateways for many, many years. I believe it was founded in 1994.
Yes.
You usually have about 17,000 students going through your programs.
Correct.
And then all of a sudden we get hit with COVID and life came to a bit of a grinding halt because schools were shut down temporarily. You were delivering classes within classrooms, and then you found yourself in a situation where you've got like zero income coming in and you needed to pivot really quickly. But before we go into it, just give me a little bit of background on Gateways so our viewers know how long you've been around, and then now you've got this new arm to your business, which is virtual training.
Beautiful. So Gateways has been around for a long time, 1994. It's founded by two amazing women, Wyn Smith and Jill Lawrence, and they were just about supporting schools in providing for highly abled or gifted and talented children. So we provide programs that run out of host venues. We have expert presenters that go in. They design the programs. I think that's something that we're very proud of. We don't prescribe programs. The programs come from the presenters and their passion themselves.
Okay.
A strong point of difference. We then invite schools from surrounding areas to participate. So in any of our programs, we could have 10, 11, 12 schools represented.
All in that room?
In that
classroom.
one room. And from all different educational sectors. So private schools, state schools, home schools, Jewish schools, Catholic schools, but they're united in their passion to learn.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And they run nationally? You've got satellite, or they run hosted around?
We're running mainly up the eastern states of Australia, so we're running out of Melbourne, Geelong, Canberra, Sydney, Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast, Brisbane and Adelaide at the moment.
Wow, you're there in a few
We're
locations.
busy, yeah.
And so I was reading with interest, I must say, when I was reading the figures that ended up happening, and we'll unpack that as we go on, that in 8 weeks you've run, let me get the facts right, you've run 55 classes.
Around 55 different programs.
With 2,000 students.
2,600 students.
33 presenters.
Yes.
Represented from 460 schools.
Thereabouts.
Whew!
I know.
They are some stats that you've done in 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk to me about what are some of the problems that you're seeing people make when they're going into virtual. Yours are run, I'm assuming, through Zoom. You've been taking...
We have been through Zoom. We did try WebEx, but we've gone back to Zoom because it has the functionality that we like.
And a lot more intuitive, Zoom.
Yeah.
WebEx, I feel like I nearly need a degree in it. It's not intuitive.
No.
It hurts my brain. Zoom is very much just press the buttons and it all
Very
happens.
straightforward, user-friendly.
So before we talk about how you did this, let's just talk about your presenters. Had any of them had any kind of training or background in online presenting beforehand?
Not many. Some are university lecturers, so
Yes.
would have done some of this. We had trialled a program with one presenter 2 years ago,
Yes.
so that's why we knew what we were doing. We'd run some, and we had students that had been part of our programs here in Australia, relocated to America, and their parents had hooked them up to remote learning to one of our programs from America.
Okay, so one of your first hurdles is, I guess, getting your presenters online first.
Yeah.
So this is not what they do normally. They're normally in a classroom, very tactile, and now you're inviting them to come and do it online. So I just think it's really important that our viewers understand that this is not what you've always done, and yet now, 8 weeks down the track, a very big part of your business. So what are some of the problems, and it's probably you've seen them yourself, of people jumping online and not succeeding?
I think the main thing is just we had a great team that was ready to move quickly. We prioritised progress over perfection.
Ooh, I like that.
Yes. So we just jumped in and said to our presenters who would like to have a go. We had some brave people that thought they'd give it a go.
And clients that love you and love the work, so are a lot more forgiving than...
Much more forgiving.
Yeah.
So I think we were very confident in the quality of our programs. We're confident in the quality of our presenters. They deliver outstanding programs. But we were prepared to compromise on the way that we delivered it. Knowing that that our students and our families that belong to the Gateways family would come along for the ride with us. They'd be forgiving when we made mistakes, and we did make mistakes. Yeah. We did, and we owned up to them. I think that was the other thing, is we just said, yes, we've made a mistake. We'd contact the parents and we'd fix this, and they just thought, look, just having access to our presenters again was so important to them that they just could see through that. I loved
in preparing for this interview, Meg, that you actually allowed your presenters to play first. So you had some rehearsals and some... Yeah, so before you threw them straight into a virtual classroom, you actually prepared them by doing some things behind the scenes.
We did. So what we did is, I think you filter out the noise. One thing is that there's a lot going on about what everyone else is doing, what we're doing. So we filtered, our team just said, this is what we're going to do. Then we just focused. And then when we had the idea, this is it, we're going online, we're going to give that Gateways experience back to our students, because that's what they wanted. And we'll go live. Then we just said, right, and within 24 hours we had sessions up so that our presenters could come on. They reimagined their programs. They didn't retrofit their programs from face to face
That was going to
to
be my
online.
next. That was going to be my next question. My
Yeah.
background is in behavioural science, neuroscience, and I see a lot of people trying to adapt an offline program into online, but the modalities are different. When
No.
you don't have that touch and feel with someone, it has to be compensated for in another way. So it's
Reimagine.
wonderful. I love
Reimagine.
that. I
don't
love that.
don't retrofit. Don't rework. Reimagine. And that was our theme going forward. Is just you are very confident in your program. You've run this many times. So here's a new forum. Our presenters are creative, imaginative
nature.
people. Absolutely, that's what makes them a Gateways presenter. So we had faith in their ability to adapt, and the growth was phenomenal. But what we did do is we offered rehearsals. We had presenters who had done this online before. We ran 2 training sessions. And people that were interested, our presenters that were thinking that they might give this a go, jumped on, and then we ran rehearsals. Good old just fashion, here you go, try
Fantastic.
it. And then it was just a case, I think we backed them. We just said, we know
Yeah.
you're going to make mistakes.
And you had a safety net there. They weren't like walking a tightrope with nothing that was going to catch them, because you as a business were very supportive,
Yes.
and as you call it, the Gateways family were there to support them.
And they knew these programs. So what we asked them to do was take programs they were very comfortable with, that they knew worked and they knew really well, and just reimagine them in that online. So they weren't worried about their programs, they were just worried about how they were going to engage their students in the new forum.
And so how did these facilitators, presenters set up their environment so that there was a level of consistency and branding?
There wasn't.
Okay.
There was none. It was, and this is what is also the Gateways experience. It comes down to the uniqueness of the presenter will give you a unique experience. So we had some that adapted very quickly and were doing amazing things using Google Docs, adapting worksheets to Google Slides and doing everything very digital. Then we had some that were very confident in their ability to engage with the students.
Yes.
We had one presenter who's just the most amazing, has a bit of a cult following. She literally had a whiteboard behind her.
So she's gone really using old school, using her texters and her whiteboard whilst using the
And
the
she
Zoom
just
as
stuck to
well.
what she was good at.
Stuck to her knitting.
And that's what we said, don't try and change everything.
Yeah.
Pick one thing, stick to what you're good at, and then slowly adapt. We had presenters who would film experiments, film demonstrations, and play them through the meetings, through the sessions. We had others that hooked up their iPhones onto little levers so that they could watch, the students could watch them do it live. This is it. We have an imaginative, creative bunch of presenters.
And you know, it's primary school kids predominantly that you're teaching.
Predominantly, yeah.
Yeah. And so they are born digital. They're digital natives.
They pick it up quicker than
So
you.
quick.
Ask them. Ask
absolutely.
them.
If you've got a problem, go and ask the kids. They've got the answers. But you see little toddlers even going up to televisions these days and trying to swipe the television because they're born with iPads in their hands. So I'm assuming that the kids were really loving this. It was a world that they'd already understood, and it was then them supporting the teachers through this as well.
Like anything, there's a range. So
Yeah.
you have some that have were very new to the experience, and you have some that were very experienced. And often in chats, we'd say we were not sure how to do this, and you get one of the students fill in the chat session saying, "Oh, this is how you do it. This is what you do," and you think, "Oh, that's great."
Isn't that
But this is a
fantastic?
normal learning classroom. You learn a lot from your students as much as
Yeah.
they learn from you.
Absolutely. So now we're kind of coming out the other side of COVID, and you've been so successful in this virtual training space. Where are you going as a business in terms of online and classroom, and what's your predictions around the new normal in training in classrooms?
That's an interesting question. Nothing will replace face-to-face.
You can't beat that heartbeat, can you?
Our presenters just want to be in that same space. However, we're restricted to main cities,
Yes.
and we have a lot of students in rural and regional areas. I'm thinking Albury, Wodonga, Newcastle, the Central Coast. We have people up on the Sunshine Coast who have been looking at our programs, and they can't access them because we can't get presenters to them and make it
Yes.
viable. We can now reach out to everyone.
Isn't that fabulous?
It is.
So learning and education is now being accessible because of this technology
Yes.
and because of COVID. So there has been some silver linings that have come out of it.
So one of my biggest joys in what I do is placing our presenters in front of a group of students and watching what happens. It's magic what happens in those classrooms. So now I feel that we're in a position to provide that for everybody,
That's brilliant.
not just those in these nice metropolitan areas.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely. And
exciting.
the world will be a better place as a result of it.
We hope so.
And so One final question. How can we find out about you? I believe that the students that are they are nominated to go into your classes.
Predominantly.
So how can parents, grandparents, family, friends find out more about Gateways?
So we're online at our website, gateways.edu.au, or on Facebook. We do have, most of our children come through the school system because they're run through the school day. However, we do have programs that we call parent-nominated programs. So you can jump
my
on our
child's
website.
very, very smart.
Well, believe it or not, most parents don't say that.
Okay.
No,
Have I
it's
been
a
watching
myth.
too much American television
Yes.
pageants?
Yeah, they usually play it down. So that's an interesting myth. But if you want to have a look at what we do, come on to our website.
Gateways.edu.au.
That's us.
Beautiful. Thanks, Meg, for your time. Really appreciate it. Great interview. So that brings us to today's episode is now complete, but what I'd love is sharing is caring. I'd love it if you loved this episode to ping it out all over social media and be sure to use the hashtag DigiStyle. Go download the Ticker TV app from your app store, and you can also go onto our website to see these episodes. So I hope that you found this to be a great episode, and be sure to drop us a line to let us know how you're doing it DigiStyle. Until next week, stay safe. Bye for now.
Hey, good morning.
Ticker's new breakfast show.
Well, most of the time in the morning, I annoy people.
I think Ben is so fabulous. He is wild, he is warm, he is witty.
The first time I met Alana, I realised I wanted to have a drink with her.
You never know what's going to come out of his mouth.
Kick off your morning with Ticker Jumpstart.
We are playing in uncharted territory.
This preparation takes me all night.
It doesn't matter how long I take, because Ben will always take longer.
Ticker Jumpstart with Benjamin Norris and Alana McLean.
You're going to get some different stuff with us, and we're going to be unapologetic for it.
You do realise it's the morning, so you don't need to be the human coffee.
There are now more ways to watch Ticker. Download our apps for Apple and Android devices. We're live on Twitter and YouTube Live. And you can catch us on Amazon Alexa and Google Home. Head to the Ticker website for more.
Introducing Ticker Sport.
Mate, how exciting is it to kick off Ticker Sport?
Mate, I'm as pumped as you, which is pretty pumped. We're here to talk sport, business, there's a market, there's a niche.
It's David Davidovich and Adrian Franklin tackling the biggest issues.
Mate, we're talking sport, but we're talking business as well. And as you know, right now, there is no more important time. The world has changed and we are here to react.
Where nothing's off limits.
This is unprecedented. We've never seen sport ground to a halt like it has. Sport's heading in a completely different direction, and we will be at the forefront.
Every Friday, live on Ticker and on demand via the Ticker apps.
Ben, Rob and Robbo. Streaming across the globe, Ben Norris, Rob McKnight and David Robinson. Ben, Rob and Robbo. News, reviews, entertainment, it's the Ben, Rob and Robbo. Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. The Ben, Rob and Robbo Show, Monday to Thursday at 1 p.m, right here on Ticker TV.